The next big MMO is Diablo IV. From the login queues to the server crashes to the fun, spontaneous social moments. Diablo IV has many of the hallmarks of what makes an MMORPG, but it's also still a Diablo game, with the required amount of fear and grandiose power fantasies, as well as of course the item grain and hardcore characters that can be deleted with one wrong move. But Diablo IV is going to be a shared world, and that's evident to anyone who's played in the closed beta, of whom there were over 1 million. A shared, open, always online world with social interactions like grouping, trading, PvP, and even world raid bosses. Sounds familiar, right? In a great article over on PC Gamer titled "I Didn't Expect Diablo IV to be my next MMO," they cover some of the features that really make it feel that way in a pretty fun little list that can be summed up as: I was able to see other players, talk to other players, group with other players, kill world bosses with other players, and even train other players. Diablo IV is an always-on world that carries on without you, as evidenced by world events. That in itself is a pinnacle of MMOs. It goes on whether you are there or not. You are part of the world, not the world. There are no lobbies here, no single-player sessions, though you can certainly play the game solo if you like, but being able to solo doesn't detract from its MMO-like qualities. Beyond the world's existence without you, there are two main parts that make it feel very MMO-like. First, you can group with others, up to 4 players, just shy of the usual 6 in an MMO. In doing so, you actually get experience bonuses by grouping up and killing with them. One of the great parts of this is just how seamless it was. Adding friends and finding your way to them was very easy, regardless of where they were or how far advanced they were. It was as simple as inviting them or inviting complete strangers right beside you. And then there's the world events. I actually struggled mightily with these because whatever phase I was on seemed to not have enough players interested in them during the beta, and we always fell short. But that didn't mean they weren't fun. You know, perhaps it wasn't that we didn't have the requisite players. Perhaps we were just bad. That's entirely possible too. Diablo IV appears to have taken many lessons from Blizzard Activision's other MMO. You know, that little small indie game that has orcs and night elves? Whether it's the personal loot systems that don't make you compete for the same drops by seeing who can click fast enough, or the open world with instance dungeons. It's also important to note here that whatever you are fighting scales to your level. When I was a few levels below my friend, the monsters we fought were higher level for them and lower level for me. There are of course exceptions to this. Ashava, for example, was the same level, and that frustratingly difficult vampire castle was definitely overleveled for me. Of course, I tried it anyway. Diablo IV actively encourages you to play together and to be part of the world, though perhaps not trade with them. There is a trading feature in the game, but as confirmed by Diablo IV general manager back in December of last year, there's no auction house and no plans for it. One of the big hallmarks of most modern MMOs and a somewhat controversial feature of Diablo 3. But the lack of centralized trading doesn't necessarily mean it's not an MMO. In fact, this is actually more like older MMOs like EverQuest and Ultima Online. Anyone from those early days of EverQuest likely remembers the Commonlands Tunnel, or the lifts at Gfey being hubs for commerce. I can imagine something similar happening in Diablo 4. In those older MMOs, trading person to person was encouraged, but there were still certain items, no-drop items, that were not tradable. And in Diablo 4, it sounds like legendaries and some unique items will be the same way. Let's talk about servers. Here, Diablo 4 appears to be taking from recent architecture in World of Warcraft, because it appears to be using a sort of sharding instancing technology to allow players to play together in different regions as they get overpopulated, no matter where they are or on what platform. Diablo 4 is not region locked and it is crossplay. When you log into Diablo 4, you don't actually select a server, you just log in. For an MMO, this is kind of like a dream. I didn't have to worry about what lobby or server my friends were on, or if it was too crowded to play, even as the game crunched under the weight of players eager to play it. It's like a big mega server where you can always play with your friends, even on launch day. Provided, of course, that they can actually get through the queue. The sharding doesn't always work out for your benefit, of course, as each time I tried the world boss, which spawned at the same time, I suffered crushing defeat after crushing defeat, only to see the triumphant on Twitter talking about the legendary loot that they achieved. And therein lies some of the debate over whether it is in fact an MMO, not to mention the comments from the actual creators of the game back in June of 2020. The limitations on how many players can be in a single region. Now, there isn't anything I could find that showed how many players could be together in a single region. And you also don't seem to have any choice as a player of what shard, phase, or whatever you want to call it, what you want to be in. Mercifully, partying up seems to merge you together no matter what, but there are definite differences here that might make players call foul on calling it an MMO. And the team behind the game themselves said it this way. Our goal has been to incorporate elements from shared world games without the game ever feeling like it's veering into massively multiplayer territory. We find that the game stops feeling like Diablo, and the world feels less dangerous when you see other players too often, or in too high numbers. They go further to explain it with examples. Dungeons and key story moments are always private, just the player and their party. Once story moments are complete and towns turned into social hubs, you'd run into a few people in town. While on the road, you'd sometimes run into a player here and there. And then finally, if you went to a location where a world event was happening, you would see a larger congregation of players trying to defend against an attack by a cannibal horde or trying to take down a Shava. An online multiplayer game with limits on population in any given location begs the question, what is an MMO? Ask any fan of the genre and they'll probably tell you some of the same things. A persistent online world, social interactions, and shared goals. All of that is present in Diablo IV, but if your description of an MMO relies on a set player number, like say 20 or 100, maybe even 1,000, all existing in a single area, then perhaps to you, it's not an MMO. But with larger MMOs already utilizing this same kind of phasing or sharding technology, that line has started to blur for me. For example, both EverQuest and World of Warcraft use this kind of technology, changing different instances of zones, even open world zones, or different locations within a zone, when the population gets a little bit too high. So again, it begs the question, what is the number that makes it not that way? If you want to get an idea of my initial thoughts on the game and why I think you should give it a try, I put them in this video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.